Hi, everybody. I'm Deacon Dave. Welcome to day 270 of Silence in a Year, along with layperson Lisa. And we have a very complicated word of the day, friend. And the
You don't let
title,
me pronounce the simple words.
well, I mean, you just said the last word on the last episode backwards. You
I
said
know.
turnitacity when it was taciturnity.
I
I'm not even
know.
looking at it, I can get it right.
I never heard the word before.
I didn't
So.
want you to mess up such a simple word.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you might have
You're
said
looking out for me.
infra. You might have said infra. Infra. Farinda or something. There's no telling.
Friend.
But the title of this episode is Privileged Moments. Okay? And so in this Cardinal Sarah is talking about
At least I'm pronouncing Sarah correct.
yeah, I know. Talks about Jesus, Mary,
Yes.
and Saint Joseph. So he works the whole family, Holy Family into this short paragraph. But he said, hey, Jesus even himself went off and prayed in silence,
Yes.
particularly at night, withdrawing off to deserted places.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also talked about Mary's attitude toward the mystery of her son. And I always think about Mary's Way of the Cross, where she just stood silently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never really thought about it until we started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Stood silently, cried silently. Everything was silent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So she was a silent witness to all of this.
Well, she was always pondering things in her heart.
Yeah.
So we do that silently.
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot of pondering these days, do we? There's a lot more going around and doing things and not enough pondering.
Right.
And then of course there's Saint Joseph, who is the most silent person in the Gospels. Not a single word of his does the New Testament record for us, which is really quite fascinating.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
But I think that what Cardinal Sarah is saying, that the condition for encountering God, right, for having that privileged moment and access to God, is silence.
Mm-hmm.
And without that silence, it's going to be difficult to have that privileged moment. But it's like being with God as He speaks to us face to face, just like a friend.
Yes.
And so when I think friend, Lisa, I think, okay, comfortable, easy to be around, cares about you, would do anything for you, is listening, that kind of friend. What are you thinking?
Well, Saint Joseph had these several privileged moments with God when he would have these dreams and he would hear the voice of God, or an angel would appear to him and tell him what he needed to do, and he could have been scared, but he saw that as God being his friend and allowing him to lead him and his family to safety. And he is well, they're all Jesus, Joseph, and Mary are just the ultimate.
They're the prototypes for what it means to be a disciple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially Mary, right?
Yes.
We know more about Mary than we do Joseph. I like the scene in The Chosen where this is all artistically inclined, right? Where they're in the woodworking shop, and Joseph is just having a little bit of fun with Jesus and trying to teach him a little lesson and have a little fun with him. And it was just really.
Oh, when he chopped his when he told he got he
Yeah.
got hit with the hammer or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so what a friend does.
Exactly, and it's really beautiful. So I think in order, a lot of times in friendships, and it's important to listen to the other person. And I think a lot of times, Lisa, like in our friendship, for example, I'm listening to what you're not saying. Seriously, and I'm looking at your demeanor and your facial expressions and how you're acting, and I read more in what you don't say. I read more in the silence than I do in anything that you can say to me. Because it's like sometimes you'll say something to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying to me, just the tone, I can tell that there's something wrong.
Mm.
And you know this to be true. Why are you
Yes.
laughing?
Well, you should know I'm not saying anything.
but this kind of really paying attention to people.
Yes.
That God really pays attention to you, okay, and he pays attention to us, and so He reads between the lines,
Yeah.
if you will. But in order for you to really truly read between the lines of someone, you have to be in a relationship with them. You have to know them, and that's why silence is like so important, so that you can hear the voice of God, and He can speak to you, and you get to know one another, and you have this understanding. Of course, God already knows everything about us, but in our own relationships, if we're too busy talking and we're not listening and knowing that person, it will be hard to read the silent messages so often of what they're saying.
Yes.
Lisa's being very silent on this episode. Lisa?
Yes,
You
Andy.
you don't have anything to say?
Well, and he also talks about St. Basil
Okay.
and how.
Tell me more.
Oh, yeah.
I already said all of that.
You
so
did?
Yes.
Never mind.
I
I
said it at
wasn't
the beginning.
listening.
So let's think about this. Jesus had a pretty busy life, and he was doing a lot of things, especially during his public ministry. Yet he always valued, and Mother Teresa, I believe, said this, that Jesus spent more time praying to the Father than he did doing his ministry. And so often we think that doing more ministry is more important than spending more time with the Father.
It's like the whole Mary Martha thing.
It is. And yes, we can find Mary in our everyday Martha duties, right? We can find Jesus, is what I mean by that. But we really just need to be still and not be distracted. I was telling someone today, I said, relax. I need to tell myself that. But relax and just settle down. And don't feel like you have to do everything, because you can't. And it reminded me as I was talking to this person that God just wants us to love. Love Him is number one. Love others is number two. Straight there, right out of the Bible for you. We overcomplicate it. We make it more than it needs to be.